thing I don't do is take cases that I don't believe in or where I feel like someone really didn't have any negligence, um, because I don't think that's fair to any business or person. But I don't judge it based on if I have a relationship with them. I judge it based on my belief of whether it's fair or not to do.
Welcome to the Attorney Post podcast, where we dive into the deep end of legal questions with experts in the field to help you navigate the ins and outs of various legal facets and jurisdictions. Because as we always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Now here's our host, Justin West.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Attorney Post. I'm your host, Justin West. This is where we discuss what's going on in various facets of the law with lawyers at the top of their game in order to help you navigate the various ins and outs of legal fields and jurisdictions, because as I always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Today, I'm joined with Stacy Kemp of the eponymous law firm that bears her name, Kemp Law, down in Tallahassee. Stacy, how are you doing today?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing really good. Well, let's jump over and take a look at Stacy's site. You can visit her site at kemplaw.com. She is an injury attorney, runs a whole firm down there that bears her name. You can visit kemplaw.com. As always, we'll have a link in the description down below if you want to reach out and get a hold of her. And we're going to dig into what she does a lot more today. You can also call 727-835-8327. Again, we'll have that in the show notes down below as well. There you can see her whole team, and they've got quite the amazing practice going on. Before we get started, as always, we're going to jump into our two sponsors, and our top sponsor today is Groove Funnels. If you love spending $5,000 to $10,000 to get a professional website built, and you love paying $300, $400 a month for hosting that and having a couple of platforms that you can use to reach out to your customers and clients, then by all means keep doing whatever it is you're doing. But if you're like me, you hate that stuff, and that's why I personally recommend Groove Pages, the all-new, all-in-one website funnel sales platform from internet marketing legend Mike Filsame. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove to sign up for free and build a complete site at no cost. No credit card needed at all. It really is a Swiss Army knife of functionality that lets you build web pages and host webinars and sell things and all sorts of stuff. And again, there's no cost to get started. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove. Our second sponsor is nationalerc.org. You may have noticed that the world just went through a pandemic, and some people are even saying we might be going through another one soon. We'll see. But during that pandemic, many businesses were forced to shut down, reduce their hours, and had supply chain interruptions, and ultimately suffered from reduced revenue in 2020 and 2021. What you may not know is that Congress recently passed the CARES Act, which allocated $400 billion in stimulus funds for small businesses that never needs to be paid back. This is not a loan like the PPP or Paycheck Protection Program. This is free money for your business that you can spend any way you think makes sense for your business. Right now, nationalerc.org is helping small businesses get the maximum amount of money that they can. You can calculate and see how much you can get back by visiting nationalerc.org. The average small business that they work with receives back over $200,000 to invest in their business, and that money, again, never needs to be paid back. The calculator is completely free, and there's never any fee for them unless they secure funding for you. Visit nationalerc.org. All right. So again, I am joined by Stacy Kemp, who runs the eponymous law firm that bears her name. You can see her lovely shining face right there on the front page of the website itself. That is, again, kemplaw.com. Stacy is the founder of Kemp Law. She got her bachelor's in criminology at St. Leo's before getting her JD at Stetson University in '07. She's based out of Tallahassee, works basically most of the Florida area around her, and she and her firm focus on helping people get back to normal after severe injuries like car accidents, slip and fall accidents, truck accidents, and even wrongful deaths. At least as close to normal as you can get after an event like that, right? Not only has attorney Kemp earned accolades such as top lawyers in Florida by the Legal Network, but her firm also repeatedly landed on the Inc. 5,000 list of fastest growing private companies, which is amazing. She's a fierce advocate for a client. Stacy often says, it's nice to win trophies, but I'd rather win for clients. And it's a testimony to her client-centered approach. Beyond her illustrious legal career, she also has unwavering commitment to the Bay Area's community that shines through with her firm's prominent sponsorships of things like the Chasco Fiesta and an impressive roster of other charities that she is involved with. So question number one I always have, that was kind of a mouthful to get through, Stacy, but I'm sure I missed some things. So what did I miss?
So I started my career actually as a court reporter, which I did for 7 years, which is really what motivated me and intrigued me into being an attorney, because I got really exposed to the court system and sitting in court, listening to all different types of trials and court cases. And So that really is what inspired me to go to law school and then open my own firm, which I opened in 2008.
Awesome. Awesome. So obviously I just kind of went over what you do, but if I didn't know anything about you and you and I were stuck in an elevator for 30 seconds to a minute. And I said, well, hi, Stacy, what do you do? Give me your pitch. Who do you help really? Where do you help them? Where are they located? Why do people choose you? Give me your pitch.
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually a mom first. I have two girls who are 15 and 17. So that always takes priority. You have to have a really good work-life balance when you're an attorney and running a business. We have over 60 employees now. So we've grown from zero to pretty large at this point. We practice primarily personal injury law. So basically, you get hurt anyway, anywhere, we can help. Unless it's on the job, we don't do workers' comp cases. But if you slip and fall somewhere, if you get injured by the negligence of someone else, and that's really the catch, right? People get injured all the time. I mean, I've fallen downstairs and hurt myself. It's not anyone's fault, right? We all do things that sometimes hurt ourselves, and it's not anyone's fault. But what we're here for is to help people when you get hurt and it's someone else's fault that they really could have prevented if they were just more diligent. So those are the kind of cases that we practice, and that could be in a grocery store, in a restaurant, your friend's house. Um, you can't see yourself, so it can't be your own house, but anywhere that's not yours. And or driving a car, you get hit from somebody else and it's due to their negligence. That's why they're called negligence cases, right? It's not like someone's not hurting you on purpose or intentionally trying to hurt you. But if you get hurt through the negligence of someone else, you incur medical bills and expenses. It's our job to make sure that you're covered for that. And I try to explain it to people. They're mostly just insurance claims, right? So if your house burns down and you have insurance, you're going to call and have them replace your home and your belongings. And that's what you pay for auto insurance for. And so if someone hurts you through their negligence, then you want to use the auto insurance that you've been paying for since you could drive and that they've been paying for to help you pay for any out-of-pocket medical bills and any pain and suffering that you incur. So, I mean, the cool thing about our area of law is that we work on a contingency fee basis. We only get paid if you get paid. So we work really, really hard to try and get that done, get it done quickly, make sure you get the treatment that you need, and that you get reimbursed for any of those bills and pain and suffering that you have. So that's what we do.
Awesome. I mean, that sums it up really nicely and makes perfect sense. And you guys work all over the Bay Area there in Florida. So that's not the entirety of Florida for the most part, or do you take cases across Florida? Do you work in other states?
We do. So we have the cool thing about my office is that we've become very remote. And because of the processes we have in place and the technology that we have in place, where we have attorneys all over the entire state and in Georgia. So we could take cases anywhere in Florida, anywhere in Georgia, and we have employees and attorneys all over to meet with clients and attend hearings or depots. We litigate our own cases. On the website, if you go to the attorneys page, you'll see all the attorneys. We have 25 to 30 of them that work all over. And we hire attorneys with experience. We take pride in who we hire and make sure they're the best, that they have the knowledge, that they have the training. And a lot of the attorneys that we hire have worked for insurance companies or for defending insurance companies, and they have experience on the other side, which really, really gives them an all around understanding and all around knowledge to be able to help you on the plaintiff side as well. So we have
Gotcha.
lots of attorneys and lots of ability to represent anyone all over Florida and Georgia.
I notice you share a last name with Brandon J. Kemp. Any particular relation there, or is that purely coincidental?
Yes, that's my husband, Brandon. And then we have another Kemp, actually. It's funny that you asked that. If you look back on the website, there's another Kemp. His name is Travis Kemp. He is, keep going, right there.
There he
He
is.
is actually of no relation. So that's
Oh,
coincidental. We have a third Kemp. He used to work for an insurance defense firm and represented insurance companies, has a ton of experience. And of course, I favored his interview because of his last name, but he's very, very deserving of the job. Does an
well,
amazing job
eventually we
here.
need to get him on the masthead. He can just tell everyone he's on the masthead, right? It's like, oh yeah, Kemp
Right.
Law. That's me. Or you guys can
Yeah,
be Kemp, Kemp,
exactly.
Kemp, or Kemp cubed, something like that. So
Right. Right.
that's awesome. Well, so one of my questions is usually about the pandemic that obviously we just got through going through, because I know a lot of different people were affected by it. And you said that you guys have really moved towards being more of a virtual firm in a lot of ways. And I think it's great. I mean, I do a lot of stuff virtually as well. You know this because we've had a few interactions before this as well. And of course, the fact that we're even Zooming right now is because everyone understands how to Zoom now. How did the pandemic, did it do anything that kind of shaped the way you guys have your practice, or were you guys already basically set up this way and were able to just kind of step into that pretty easily? How did the pandemic affect you and your firm, and the way that you operate?
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't miss a beat because we are already very remote anyways. And so the only employees that really needed to be at the firm were the people collecting mail and scanning the mail in so that all the attorneys could get their mail and checks and things like that. But other than that, every firm can be done remotely. So everyone just went home, whoever wasn't already at home working was able to just bring their computer home and work. And we really didn't miss a beat. The pandemic affected us only because obviously less people were on the road, less accidents were happening. And so, just the volume of cases decreased over that time because people weren't driving around. But production wise, we were right.
We seem to have frozen up. Are you there?
I froze. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm here.
okay. Now we're back to normal. I don't know if that was my end or if that was your end, but I caught the
Not
very
sure.
last word that you said there, the very last sentence. I missed out,
Yeah,
but
I said it really didn't affect us. We didn't miss a beat.
okay. Totally fine. Um, So let me ask you this: what got you into law in the first place, right? And particularly PI law. Were you the little girl that had like lawyer Barbie as a girl, and that was what you wanted to do, or everyone else was playing house and you're watching Matlock and whatnot, or was it something that you just kind of fell into and found you had a knack for? What was your trajectory to get you into law, and what was your trajectory that got you into PI?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. I was a court reporter for 7 years, so I sat in court. That's what exposed me to it. That's what made me realize that it was something I had a passion for and I wanted to do. At the time, though, I didn't know I wanted to do personal injury. I just knew I wanted to be an attorney. So I went to law school, got my degree, and I opened my own firm really because of the flexibility. I had a young daughter at home and I was pregnant with my second one. And, being a mom had to come first for me and having the flexibility to be a mom. Didn't mean I didn't want to work hard. It just meant if I had to go, I had to go. Um, so that's the motivation that made me open my own firm and just take that gamble. And then I started doing some criminal, some family law stuff, really anything that came in the door, right? At that time, you're
Mhm.
new and you're like, what do you have? I can take care of it. Um, but a jack of all trades is really a master of none. So you don't really want to practice in that manner. So I had to find like which niche I really wanted to grow and master. And honestly, family law is very taxing. It's really dealing with people's worst emotional problems, is much different than dealing with someone's physical problems like personal injury. Emotional problems is very taxing because, you kind of take it home with you and you take those problems home with you. And so I didn't enjoy that on a long-term basis. Personal injury was rewarding because you didn't have to hunt money down from people. You can do it up front and get paid later from the insurance companies. There's no issues with getting paid. It's not an emotional area of law. People are hurt, yes, but they're not emotionally upset and frustrated. So it's less taxing in that manner dealing with that. And you get to help people and give them money, right? They're
Yeah.
not giving it to you. You're actually giving it to them, which is so much more rewarding than like trying to bill people and getting them to pay you.
Oh yeah.
So
No.
there's just a lot of things about personal injury that I truthfully enjoy better, um, for all of those reasons. And it's just a better quality of life without the taxing end of it. So that's how I narrowed it down to this is what I really like. And
Yeah.
then just went to build that area.
I talked to a lot of attorneys in my line of work and in this podcast, and I've often thought there's a couple areas I don't think I could ever do. Family law is one of them, just because I feel like it would be so mentally and emotionally taxing. I feel like I really respect anyone that does criminal law, and I think they're a very important safeguard in our society. So I never ever want to talk anyone out of doing criminal law, but I don't know if I could do that one either. Especially, and I know that if I got into it, maybe I could. I don't know, but I always thought PI was an area that would be pretty interesting, and I want to say pretty safe, but I have to imagine sometimes you have to deal with some pretty grisly images and things that you have to like, present or whatnot. Does that ever take a toll on you, or is it something that you've just kind of become desensitized to, or what's the rub there?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like being an EMT or a police officer, right? You kind of get used to seeing those things, or a nurse or a doctor. They cut you open, they've seen a million, hearts or brains or whatever it is they do. It's sort of like that. I mean, you get used to seeing the crash cars and the injuries and the bruises and the, things like that. We don't see a lot in person though. So I think it's a lot easier for us than it is for people that actually experience on scene interaction with people that are really hurt and injured and have to tell families and things like that. Like that would be terrible. Ours is much more removed. So it's not that difficult, honestly.
Yeah, it's after the initial emotion is kind of washed over, and they've kind of had time to
Yeah.
process at least some of it. That makes sense. So obviously you've been practicing for a good long while now, and that's amazing. I am sure that in the process of learning law and practicing law, you've had some highs and some lows. One of my favorite questions to ask people is tell me about one of your times in your practice of law where you failed. Because I know we all fail. Nobody bats 1,000. If you played the game long enough, nobody bats 1,000. So can you tell my listeners about a time, Stacy, when you experienced something you would consider a failure, but what did you learn from it, and how do you carry that forward to make sure you're protecting against that and always doing your best to protect for your clients?
So running a business is challenging because you have to put processes in place in order to not have pitfalls that fall through. And really, what makes our firm better and better is when we do fail at something, when something falls through the cracks, because that's when I can go, okay, how did that happen? Why did that happen? And what can I do to prevent it from happening in the future? So I don't like, you don't like when things fall through the cracks and it's not like a fun thing. You try to think you're catching everything, but you can't catch every ball. So processes is something that I absolutely love and I put into place daily when things fall through.
Yeah.
It just makes us better. It makes us now for people that don't make themselves better with better processes when things fail, they don't improve, right? For me, it just makes me better, makes me improve, makes my system better. So every failure, everything that's fallen through, whether an attorney it could be something stupid. They miss a phone call. They don't text the client back, or they miss a deadline. Um, Things like that. You put better oversight procedures in place to prevent those things from happening again. So we've had a ton of pitfalls and things that have happened, and I just use that as a learning tool, honestly.
Gotcha. That makes sense. The flip side of that coin, though, is I'm sure you've had some big wins, some things that you're really proud of, and I'm sure it's probably even hard to pick just one. But if you were to pick one or two of the things you're most proud of in your legal career, what would those be?
Really, it's growth. My goal every year is to grow 30 to 50% bottom line gross revenue every single year. That's always been my goal since I started in 2008, and I have hit that every single year. I have grown
Wow.
every year. There's never a year that we don't. Even through the pandemic, we still grew. I just put more into it, right? And
Hmm.
it's a personal goal. I you're in competition with yourself, nobody else. And if you look at your business and you set goals and you try to improve and you put back into it, you see how that pays off and how your efforts and your ability to continue to put more in and get more out. That's what I'm most proud of because I have continued to grow every year. And I would always think, gosh, once you make, this amount of money to make 30% more, it's harder. You have to that it gets harder, you think.
Mhm.
But I still do it. Every year I still do it. Doing it again this year. I don't ever plan to not do it because for me, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I am most proud that I've been able to really be debt free and grow systematically for what I could afford to do
Mhm.
and put more and more in and just watch it continue to grow. That's the really rewarding part.
Awesome. I mean, it is hard to balance being being an attorney and being a business owner and being a parent and everything else. I've got a couple. I've got five actually, so I totally understand the balance of all of those. My oldest just went to college this year, and my youngest is in preschool, so they're all across the gamut too. We've high schoolers playing sports and everything else, but absolutely to grow a business and consistently grow it, I can see why you've been repeatedly on the Inc. 5000, which is very very impressive. Obviously, I'm sure you've had some mentors along the way. Can you tell me about some of your biggest inspirations or biggest mentors that you've had on your journey through this legal world?
One second.
Yep.
My daughter, see what I'm talking about, right? Your mom, your daughter's blowing you up with text messages. Hello, hello, mom, can you answer me? And you're like, I'm in the middle of something, trying to balance that. So now I'm responding her and telling her, can you please give me a minute?
Not a problem. There we go. So one of your biggest inspirations or one of your biggest mentors.
Um, when I was a court reporter, I really looked up to a lot of the judges that I worked under and with. And one of them, his name was Stanley Mills, great judge, super supportive. And when I decided I wanted to go to law school, I sat and talked with him and a few of the other judges there about, my goals and my dreams and things like that. And seeing him more towards the end of his career and how he had built his career, you know, that's what inspired me at the time because that's what I was around. I was in court all the time. So I was really inspired by the judges I worked with that did a good job, that had a good mannerism and a good um, demeanor about them on the bench and that were really smart. So that's where my initial mentors came from.
Okay, that makes sense. Now you guys have a lot of community involvement. I know that you on your About Us page, you talk about the Chasco Fiesta. Can you talk a little bit about that and some of the other sponsoring things that you guys do? And how's it impacted, how have you impacted those events and how have those events impacted your firm?
Yeah, so I believe in giving back because the community gives to us, right? They support us, and so we try to support them. I give not too many I can even count. I get requests to donate money on a daily basis. I obviously can't do everything, but I do try to give back a ton every single year, mostly to kids. I try to give back to a lot of schools, and I give back to a lot of sporting events and teams and things like that. So I do a ton of that. Um, I mean, I literally give to different people on a weekly basis that need help, and it's I love it because you build relationships with these people. You help people, and they support you as well. So I also try to support local businesses as well because they support you too. So
Yep.
it's always like a give and take. And if you support others that support you, and then you just have that ongoing, give and take relationship, and it's rewarding both business wise and um, personally.
Gotcha. I'm going to ask you a really weird question. Just popped into my head when you talked about supporting local businesses, and you're welcome to answer this or not. Can even cut it out if you need. Is there would there ever be a conflict of interest if it's a business that you've supported in the past, and then someone goes in there and slips and falls or something like that? What would you do in a situation like that, or would you? I mean, you're still just ultimately dealing with insurance companies, but would that ever be a conflict of interest?
No, I mean I've had cases against my friends before. It's like I mean, it is an insurance claim. It's not personal and it's business. And if they don't hire me, they're going to hire someone else. So I always say, just be glad it was me. You know, be glad it was me because I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to get it done, and then it's going to be over with. Someone's going to take care of it. So I, I
That's
mean, it
fair.
might as well be me. So
Yeah.
I do take it because I'm going to help whatever happens. I'm going to help the person that got injured, and that's business. You got to keep those things separate.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. Again, this is a random question I've never had pop
Yeah.
into my head before where you're
One
talking about
thing
the
I
different.
don't do, one thing I don't do is take cases that I don't believe in or where I feel like someone really didn't have any negligence, um, because I don't think that's fair to any business or person. But I don't judge it based on if I have a relationship with them. I judge it based on my belief of whether it's fair or not to do.
Oh, I think that is beyond reasonable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Stacy, again, I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you've got a hard stop coming up in the near future. So, in a minute, I'm going to probably ask you my two closing questions. Just as a reminder, those questions are going to be A, if we can go back in time and give young Stacy some advice, and of course, by extension, anyone else getting started in their practice of law. What advice would you give yourself and why, other than, of course, the obvious, buy a lot of Bitcoin, hold it to 60K, right? And then question number two is, if I gave you my magic pen, this pen is actually from a Benedictine monastery in Atchison, Kansas. And I found it has magical abilities because it can actually strike laws from the books, add laws to the books, or change laws that are on the books. And again, those laws can be major laws with national or even international sweeping ramifications, or it can be the stupidest, most pedantic law that makes you fill out forms in triplicate 3 times a week or whatever. So if I gave you my pen, what law would you change and why? While you're thinking about those, let's jump back over one more time and take a look at your site. This is Kemp Law. Again, I am talking with Stacy Kemp. She is right there on the masthead with, well, at least I assume that's her. There are 3 Kemps there, but her face is the one smiling at me at the top of the webpage, so I'm going to assume it's her. And if you guys ever need to reach out to an attorney who does injury law, especially in the Florida area or any of the other areas that she services, you can visit kemplaw.com. We will have all of her information down below in the show notes, really at the top of the show notes, in fact. So please feel free to reach out. Or if you know someone has been injured, please feel free to help direct them towards Stacy as well. Our final sponsor is Rank with News. If there was a guaranteed way to get your law firm or your business featured in major national publications like Yahoo News, Forbes, Bloomberg, and others, and to see those articles ranking locally, even nationally sometimes in under 8 hours for major competitive keywords that people are actually looking for, what else would you need to know? Rank with News is simply the most powerful way to hit page 1 in under 2 weeks safely, organically, and oftentimes nearly permanently. This is essentially guaranteed SEO or search engine optimization on steroids, ranking quickly and sticking long term. Visit rankwithnews.com or rankwith.news to learn more and book a time to speak with a specialist about featuring your firm or your business in major national 8-figure traffic sites that can launch you to page number 1 in a matter of hours and help you dominate your local marketplace. Get media exposure, rank higher in Google, build credibility, and win more customers and clients with Rank with News. All right, so question number 1, Stacy. We somehow magically time travel back to 2007, 2010, somewhere in there at the early start of your career, and you're able to give yourself a little piece of advice, something to look out for in the future, something to make sure is happening. What advice would you give yourself and why?
So I would probably, as when you're a business owner, you kind of learn lessons along the way. And one of those lessons is, how to manage people and not get too close to your employees and have like better boundaries. Um, and and not take things like as personal. It's it's kind of unfortunate actually, Justin, because when you run a business, sometimes you just go and do things for people or your employees, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really typically make them any more loyal. When you do and do, some people just take and take until you stop doing, and then they don't really appreciate or remember anything that you did. So, you know, having healthy boundaries between business and personal when it comes to staff, I think is super important. I definitely would have taught myself some of those lessons and micromanaging. When I first opened my business, I wanted to like hear every conversation and know what everyone was doing every second. So I wanted everything to be perfect. And learning how to delegate and not micromanage is something that took me some time, because at first you just really want, I would like listen to my receptionist because my office was small and I could hear everything they said. And then I would be like, wait, like don't say this or don't say that. And you just like want everything to be so perfect. But when you can learn to really let go, I finally had to just say, you know what, you need to put your office like in the back so you can't hear anything, and just let people go, delegate, and don't worry about it. Once I learned how to do that, I was able to take more off my plate and know that everyone's not going to be perfect or do it exactly the perfect way that maybe I would do it, but that there are other ways to do things and it still gets the job done. And so if I would have really learned that quicker, um, or just known that it's okay, even if learning how to delegate is very difficult because no one's really going to quite do it like you. But
Yeah.
even if they can do it 80% of you, it's still worth the delegation. And so figuring that out, how to supervise and manage and oversee and just push things off your plate. Um, Great things that I've learned over the last 15 years that I would have just told myself right in the beginning. Hey, do this and don't do this and do this and don't do this, and you'll save yourself like a lot of heartache. But I guess that's how you grow and get better and make better decisions and become a better business owner. So
Well, clearly whatever you're doing is working. So good
yeah,
job
but
on
I mean,
that.
you got to fall down and get back up, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am a firm believer failure is the best teacher. So
Hmm.
I don't like to learn sometimes, but failure is the
Right.
best teacher. So second fun question. Here's my magic pen. I'm going to give it to you. You can change a law. You can add a law. You can strike a law. What law, Stacy, are you going to change and why?
Well, because I'm a personal injury attorney, I'm going to make sure it's related to that. Unfortunately, in the state of Florida, bodily injury coverage is not required by anyone. So there are many times where people get into accidents due to the negligence of other people, and they don't have injury coverage to help them with their medical bills or pain and suffering, lost wages, anything. And in most states, it is required. It just so happens in Florida, it's not. Now, our legislator did pass a mandatory BI um, law was it last year or the year before? And unfortunately, our governor vetoed it and did not put it into place. I was very upset that that happened because I really do think we need that in Florida. People have insurance. There's very few cases where they just don't have insurance at all. Um, but the only mandatory insurance in Florida is PIP and property damage. That fixes your car, and you use your own PIP, not the other person's. So the other driver who negligently injures people, a lot of times they don't have coverage, and I would definitely fix that for sure. That would be the one I would want to put in place.
Gotcha. I've actually heard people talk about that before, so that makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
it is a shame. I mean that seems like government is there to protect people, and I'm a firm believer in limited government at the end of the day. But I think that that's one of those areas where it is making sure that people are reasonably protected, and I don't think that is a bad idea. And of course, I live in a state where it's required anyway, so that's good to know.
There you
Well,
go.
Stacy, I appreciate taking some of your time out of me to talk with me today and talk with my listeners. I do always like to let my guests have the final word. Are there any parting thoughts or parting advice or wisdom that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, if you ever get in an accident, whether it is slip and fall, car accident, anything like that, just make sure you call us at Kemp Law. That's why we call it accident or fall, call Kemp Law. And our easy number to remember is 727-847-HURT. That's 727-847-4878. You can also reach me on my Facebook Messenger. I'm always available on my website. There's a chat feature to chat with us if you can't call. And we are available pretty much 24/7. So we have people working even on the weekends, at night, to help people whenever they need it. So we try to be, very available and easy to access. So just if you need help, give us a call.
All right, that sounds great. Well, Stacy, thank you again very much for taking time to talk with us today. This is Justin West with the Attorney Post. I have been talking with Stacy Kemp of the eponymous law firm that bears her name, kemplaw.com. As always, though we do talk about lots of legal issues on this podcast does not constitute legal advice. And if you have a legal issue, you should always seek the advice of a competent attorney in your area who focuses on the matter that you need help with. However, obviously, if you live in the Florida area, I think Stacy and her firm would be an amazing resource if you've been injured. So do I confidently say you can reach out to her. Again, we'll have all of her information down below in the show notes, including the easier to remember number as well. And yeah, because again, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. This is our podcast. If you've been listening to this on YouTube, we always appreciate a like, a subscribe, and a share. If you're listening to this on any of the other podcast repositories out there, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, iTunes, whatever it happens to be, like us, comment, rate, share, whatever it happens to be. And obviously, if you know someone that would benefit from hearing this podcast, please feel free to share it with them as well, because it helps the podcast grow and helps your friend get better with whatever it is that they are facing. Until next time, this is Justin West reminding you guys, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Thanks for listening. And bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Take care.